Well, the Ford government says it's cracking down on crime with new legislation introduced this week that will include measures to strengthen the province's bail system, better track repeat offenders, and include changes to the judicial appointments process. Joining me now to discuss is Ontario's Attorney General, Downey. So great to have you in studio. Thanks so much for making time.
Thanks for having me here.
I wanted to ask you, because the Premier yesterday dismissed the idea of judicial independence. He said that judges should be elected in this province. Just how serious is the Premier about the notion of moving towards an elected judiciary?
What you heard yesterday was his frustration, and the frustration that we hear from constituents when we knock on doors and when they send us emails and texts. You know, people are frustrated with the state of the justice system because they don't feel safe in their own driveways even sometimes, with carjackings and that sort of thing. But we're not going down the road of electing judges, but it is an expression of that frustration.
While I do take your point, the allegation that judicial independence in the province is a joke, that's the Premier's words, not mine, is a serious allegation. So can you just be clear with our viewers today? Do you have any evidence to support that?
Judicial independence is a bedrock, and there's no question about that. But the frustration that comes with decisions that get made, and he's expressing that. He's an authentic guy. He's saying how he feels. And, you know, it's really important. We have a great relationship with the judges in the province. The Chief Justices are all gold standard, you know, whether it be the Court of Appeal, Superior Court, or Ontario Court of Justice. They're all fantastic, and they're doing great work. And the judges on the bench and the JPs on the bench are doing a good job. But we're frustrated with the federal government and the things that they have to change. So that's why we're moving with the legislation to tighten up what we can. We're calling on the feds to do more. And we're asking the judges to apply the law as stringently as possible.
Yeah, let's talk about those changes that you are proposing to the advisory committee that makes judicial appointments. Yeah. You say that these changes are going to, get judges appointed faster to kind of deal with the backlogs in the court system. But how do you guarantee that this isn't just about fast-tracking appointments of like-minded people, as the Premier has put it?
It's a great question, because the way the system works, there's an independent committee, and they'll stay independent. They receive applications, they interview the candidates. If they're recommended, then they come forward for consideration. If they're not recommended, we don't even know who they are. They just don't come through that independent committee. So that won't change, but what will change is that we're not going to be advertising per vacancy. We're going to be creating a pool system so that if somebody's qualified, they're in the pool for 3 years. And that way we can move fast. If there's a vacancy in, say, Windsor, and that pool has people in it, we can literally just pluck them out of there and put them on the bench and get to work.
Part of those changes, though, is that committee will have to consider criteria as outlined by you, the Attorney General. So what safeguards, if any, will there be in place to ensure that process is not swayed by political factors?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a transparency to it. If I as Attorney General send them, here are my priorities that I want you to look at, that has to be publicly disclosed so that the public can see that. And I've been very open talking about the need to understand communities, understand the rights of victims, have a certain perspective in terms of experience in the victim's area and how the system works. So I've been very open about it anyways, but I'm entrenching that so that the subsequent Attorneys General will have to be very open about what they're asking the committee to look at.
I wanted to ask you as well about the changes being proposed about bail reform. Of course, that's also top of mind for many Ontarians. Yeah. The CCLA, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, said yesterday that 80% of people who are in Ontario jails have been denied bail and are currently awaiting trial. They say it's already very difficult to get bail in this province. So I guess what evidence have you collected that suggests these changes are needed?
Well, we need to make sure that people who are out on bail are actually complying with the bail conditions. And so we've put resources across the system, whether it be for police to follow up with people in the community who are on bail, the GPS units. We're instituting that there will be a pay for that so that we're recovering costs. And we're making sure that people who are out and have the privilege to be out, quite frankly, are complying with what they're supposed to be doing.
Have you collected hard data, though, on those numbers? How many people are actually successfully complying with their bail?
So what we're seeing with the bail teams that we've put out there, and we're adding to that a bail review prosecution team, making that permanent. we're seeing that there is non-compliance now that we're actually looking. And we want to.
What would be the percentage of that?
I can't give you a specific number.
So you don't have hard data?
We do have hard data. I don't have it in my head. But we know that we've seen an increase in charges for breach of bail. And that's an important piece of our community.
Do you have data as well, perhaps, on, like, have you collected data on, how many people are denied bail and then turn out to be innocent, or how many people plead guilty because they are, awaiting pretrial, they're held in pretrial custody? Are you collecting data on that as well to kind of balance the?
Well, we do have data on certain outcomes. I don't have data on intent. You're saying they plead guilty because I don't have data on what their motives are. And we collect a lot of data. It's again, with judicial independence, we work with them, so we don't release data without the judiciary signing off on it. But you will see a robust amount of data on the Ontario Court of Justice website in relation to that.
I guess just lastly, because I only have like a few seconds left, but just how would you respond to the CCLA's assessment that 80% of people in Ontario jails have already been denied bail?
We're putting historic numbers into legal aid. We're putting historic numbers into adding judges. We're adding 42 judges on top of the 300 that are there. We're adding Crown prosecutors, victim services, police officers on the ground. We're making the system bigger and better so that we can get people to trial earlier, so that if they're innocent, they're not there any longer than they need to be.
Okay, unfortunately, I have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.